When a courier hands you a fresh bouquet of roses, you're usually just looking at this like really rustic, timeless gesture.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it feels incredibly simple, just handing over some flowers.
Yeah, exactly. But behind that ribbon, there's actually a $12.7 billion digital machine that is just constantly fighting the clock.
Fighting the clock is the perfect way to put it, honestly.
Right. So today we are doing a deep dive into the hidden tech ecosystem that actually powers these on-demand flower delivery apps. We're going to, map out the massive software architecture required to move petals across a city.
Which is a lot more complex than it sounds.
Oh, it really is. And we'll break down the six-figure price tags to build these platforms and uncover how technology is radically altering this really ancient emotional tradition.
Yeah, the contrast between the product and the process is just striking. You have this highly delicate, perishable piece of nature.
Literally a dying plant.
Exactly. A dying plant being managed by some of the most ruthless, sophisticated supply chain and routing software on the planet.
It's wild to think about it that way.
It is. Because what looks to you, the user, like just a couple of taps on a screen, is actually this grueling exercise in database concurrency, micro-logistics, and, well, consumer psychology.
And that intersection of nature and code is where things get really complicated. Because moving from a traditional local florist to a digital platform isn't just about, throwing up a digital storefront and taking online payments.
No, not at all. It's a fundamental shift in the business model.
Right. I mean, we all know apps operate 24/7 and obviously reach more people than a corner shop.
Yeah.
But the transition fundamentally changes how the core asset, the flowers themselves, are managed and, perceived by the buyer.
It creates a fascinating friction point, really, because in a traditional shop, the customer kind of performs their own quality assurance.
Right. You walk in, you look at the lilies, maybe smell the eucalyptus.
Yeah, you judge the freshness with your own senses. But the moment you move that transaction to an app, you introduce what we call the Instagram versus reality disparity.
Oh, man. The classic filter problem.
Exactly. You are substituting physical reality for a perfectly lit, professionally styled, highly edited photograph.
Which sets up an impossible expectation. I mean, you are buying the idealized version of a plant. And biological organisms don't really care about the lighting in a product photo.
They absolutely do not. A flower photographed at its, absolute peak bloom in a humidity-controlled studio, it's going to look vastly different from a bouquet that has just spent 45 minutes in the back of a delivery sedan in mid-July.
Oh, for sure. Just wilting in the heat.
Right. And if the physical product arrives looking even slightly less vibrant than that digital image, the entire emotional utility of the gift is compromised. The sender feels like they were scammed, and the recipient feels, well, undervalued.
It essentially turns a gesture of love into a source of embarrassment.
And that emotional risk is compounded by the loss of the human safety net. A good local florist acts as a consultant, right?
Yeah, they'll actually talk to you.
Exactly. They might steer you away from a certain bloom because maybe it came in looking weak that morning, or they'll suggest a substitute for a sympathy arrangement based on local customs.
Which an app completely ignores.
The app strips away that consultative layer entirely in favor of pure scale and speed, so you are entirely reliant on the software to protect the experience.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because to understand why this $12.7 billion market is shifting so rapidly, we have to look at how different the models are. It's like, well, think of a physical florist as a beautifully curated museum you have to visit.
Okay, I like that comparison.
But a delivery app, that is like having a personalized, endless greenhouse right in your pocket.
A very demanding greenhouse.
Highly demanding. And that pressure on the software to perform perfectly leads us to the actual architecture of these platforms. Because when I was pulling the sources for this deep dive, the sheer volume of code required, it genuinely stopped me in my tracks.
It is surprisingly dense, isn't it?
It is. Because when you or I download a flower delivery app, we just think we're using one piece of software. But we're really only interacting with 25% of the system.
Right. To operate successfully at scale, an on-demand delivery service actually requires 4 distinct interlinked nodes.
All of them?
Yeah. You've got the user app, the store app, the writer app, and the admin panel.
Okay, wait. 4 distinct apps sounds like bloated tech. I mean, I can order a ride across town with just 2 interfaces, mine and the driver's. Why on earth does sending a bouquet require double the software architecture of a ride-sharing service?
Think about it like an air traffic control system, but for a decaying asset.
Okay, I'm listening.
In a rideshare, The passenger and the driver are both active agents, right? They coordinate a pickup together. But with flowers, the passenger is a highly fragile item whose lifespan is ticking down the second it gets cut.
So it can't text the driver to say, I'm on the corner.
Exactly. The bouquet is basically a plane rapidly running out of fuel. The store is the hangar preparing it. The rider is the pilot navigating the route. And the admin panel is the radar system overseeing the entire airspace.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. So let's break down how these four nodes actually communicate under all that pressure.
Well, the chain reaction starts with the user app. And this interface carries the burden of replacing that consultative florist we talked about earlier.
So it has to do a lot of heavy lifting.
A ton of it. It handles complex relational filtering, so allowing you to sort not just by price, but by occasion, color, delivery speed.
And it has to look pretty while doing it.
Right. It has to load high-resolution images instantly while securely processing your payment. But honestly, its most critical function is the silent handshake it performs with the second node, which is the store app.
So the moment I hit purchase, the store app has to catch that exact signal.
And it has to catch it in an environment that is totally chaotic. I mean, the store app is usually a tablet sitting on a wet counter covered in stems and leaves.
Oh yeah, just getting splashed with flower water all day.
Exactly. Florists use it to manage the incoming queue, confirm they actually have the specific pink peonies you just ordered, and then they trigger the assembly process. And once the bouquet is tied and ready, the store app fires a beacon to the third node, the rider app.
Which operates under completely different constraints, I imagine. I mean, the writer doesn't need high-res photos of flowers or filtering menus.
No, the rider app is built for extreme minimalism and speed. It needs to ping GPS data constantly without draining the courier's phone battery.
That's a tricky balance.
Very tricky. It receives the pickup notification, calculates the fastest route taking into account real-time traffic to minimize the time the flowers spend outside a climate-controlled environment, and it allows the rider to capture proof of delivery.
And every time the writer taps picked up or delivered, that data is pinging back to my phone so I can watch that little icon move across a map.
Yep. But that real-time pinging is just the ground floor. Sitting above the writer, the store, and the user is the admin panel.
The radar system.
The radar system, exactly. This is a robust web dashboard where the platform owners are watching all the macro data.
What kind of data are they looking at?
Oh, they are adjusting dynamic pricing based on inventory levels. They're mapping out heat zones of where orders are clustering in the city and managing the financial splits between the platform and the partner florists.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because mapping out an air traffic control system with 4 synchronized software nodes brings up a massive flashing dollar sign in my head. You can't just build this on a weekend using a website template.
Oh no. The capital expenditure required to build this ecosystem natively is substantial. Really substantial.
Yeah, the sources outline the costs super clearly. To build a fully custom 4-node solution from the ground up for both iOS and Android, companies are spending anywhere from $59,000 to over $120,000.
It's a huge barrier to entry.
It is. And the front-end app development alone eats up $25,000 to $50,000 of that budget. But the part that really caught my eye is the back-end server development, which runs $10,000 to $20,000.
Which sounds like a lot for something you can't see.
Exactly. To someone outside of tech, paying $20,000 for invisible server architecture just seems staggering. But I know small florists can also start with like a basic MVP or white label option for maybe $5,000 to $15,000. But still, for the big players,
Yeah.
$20,000 on a back end.
It seems staggering until you realize that the back end is literally the only thing standing between the brand and total collapse during peak stress. The back end isn't just storing data, it is actively resolving conflicts in milliseconds.
Give me an example of the kind of conflict that $20,000 back end is resolving. Like, what goes wrong if you cheap out?
Let's look at the catastrophic failure of not syncing inventory dynamically. The flower industry is uniquely spiky. Valentine's Day and Mother's Day are the Super Bowls of floral logistics.
Oh, absolutely. Total chaos.
Right. So imagine a mid-sized local florist using a cheap, poorly integrated tech stack. It's the morning of Valentine's Day. The store physically has 20 arrangements of long-stemmed red roses left in the cooler.
Okay, 20 bouquets left. But because it's a massive holiday, they probably have, what, 300 people looking at their page on the app at the exact same time?
Easily. And this is exactly where the cheap database fails. If 50 of those people hit purchase within the same 3 seconds, a weak database will process all 50 transactions before it updates the inventory count.
Wait.
Someone just sold 30 bouquets that do not exist.
Oh, man, that is a literal nightmare.
It is absolute brand destruction. The florist is now forced to manually call 30 angry, panicked people on the most romantic day of the year, cancel their orders, and issue refunds.
Oh, they would be so mad. Those customers are definitely taking screenshots, going to social media, and just destroying the shop's reputation.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
So a robust custom backend handles concurrent database writing. It locks the inventory the millisecond a user begins the checkout process, completely preventing double selling.
Wow.
Yeah, you are paying that $10,000 to $20,000 to ensure your system never writes a check your physical cooler can't cash.
That makes perfect sense. And honestly, that failure to sync inventory is exactly why we see such a massive divide in the market. A local shop risks total ruin with a bad tech stack, whereas the industry giants have survived because they poured millions into mastering that exact synchronization problem.
The market landscape really illustrates how different players use technology to solve very different logistical hurdles.
Right, because you have a legacy giant like 1-800-Flowers. And they essentially wrote the playbook for this entire space. I mean, they aren't just an app. They're a massive franchise API network.
They're a machine.
Yeah. They've integrated their software with thousands of independent local florists, allowing them to route an order from a user in New York to a flower shop in a tiny town in Ohio, and they execute same-day delivery almost anywhere in the country.
And their competitive advantage is pure geographic scale and routing efficiency. But new entrants can't really compete with that sheer footprint, right? So they use technology to hyper-focus on specific supply chain efficiencies instead.
Farm-Girl Flowers is a perfect example of this. Our sources note that typical florists throw away up to 40% of their inventory because they try to offer this massive variety of blooms.
40% waste is just brutal for any profit margin.
It's insane. It means a lot of things just die in the cooler before they ever get bought.
Yeah.
But Farm Girl completely changed the model. They use their digital platform to offer a curated, very limited selection of daily arrangements.
And by restricting the user's choice, they drastically simplify their own back-end logistics.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah, they aren't tracking 50 different types of perishable stems. They are moving a consolidated stream of eco-friendly, locally sourced blooms. It reduces waste, which dramatically improves their profit margins, all while selling this really cool aesthetic of artisanal curation.
And then you have a company like The Sill, which bypassed the cut flower decaying asset problem entirely. They recognized a younger demographic, wanted the aesthetic of plant delivery, but, wanted something that lives longer than a week. So they built their infrastructure around potted houseplants.
The logistical requirements for the sill are entirely different. I mean, a potted snake plant can sit in a warehouse for a month.
Right, doesn't care.
It really doesn't. It can survive 3 days in a standard FedEx truck without a dedicated cold chain courier. Their backend doesn't need to panic about a 3-hour delivery window, which frees up all their capital to invest heavily in the unboxing experience and post-purchase care content.
My favorite detail from the sources, though, is Bloomsbury. Because as these platforms grow, they are using their massive databases to solve highly specific consumer anxieties. Bloomsbury operates a subscription delivery model, but they built a dedicated ASPCA-verified pet-safe collection.
Now that is a phenomenal use of database tagging.
Right, because flowers like lilies are highly toxic to cats and dogs. If you walk into a traditional physical shop and ask the clerk to, guarantee the chemical safety of every single stem in a mixed bouquet for a household with a golden retriever, they are going to struggle.
Oh, it requires encyclopedic knowledge. It's almost impossible for one person to memorize.
Exactly. But an app can filter thousands of SKUs against an ASPCA toxicity database in half a second. It completely avoids sending toxic flowers to pet owners.
They essentially turned a massive back-end data mapping project into a front-end marketing feature. It builds incredible trust with a specific demographic.
It really does.
But what's fascinating here is that the most successful digital platforms often realize that software can only solve half the problem. Eventually, the digital signal has to become a physical object.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of tech and reality. The Bloom and Wild case study.
This is a masterclass in holistic design. So Bloom and Wild launched in the UK in 2013. They mapped out the entire user journey and realized that the biggest point of friction, the moment that caused the most customer churn and logistical expense, wasn't a glitch in the app at all.
What was it?
It was the physical delivery constraint.
The dreaded, sorry we missed you, slip left on the door.
Exactly the issue. A traditional bouquet is voluminous and fragile. If the courier arrives and the recipient is at work, they have two terrible options.
Neither of which are good for a dying plant.
Right. Option A, leave this temperature-sensitive biological asset baking on a concrete porch, just hoping it doesn't wilt or get stolen. Or option B, take it all the way back to the depot, triggering a costly redelivery attempt the next day and completely ruining the surprise.
It's a lose-lose scenario born entirely from the physical shape of the product.
So Blue and Wild didn't just write better routing code. They engineered a physical world solution to complement their software. They redesigned the bouquet itself.
The letterbox flowers. This is pure genius.
It really is. They invested heavily in R&D to figure out how to safely pack fresh, unarranged stems horizontally.
Wait, horizontal stems, don't they get crushed?
Well, that was the challenge. They tested cardboard thicknesses, they designed these little micronets to protect individual flower heads from getting crushed, and engineered a sleek, sturdy box precisely measured to slide seamlessly through a standard UK mail slot.
Which means the courier never actually has to interact with a human. The flowers drop right onto the doormat, perfectly safe inside the climate-controlled house, just waiting for the recipient to get home from work.
It completely eliminated the failed delivery metric. I mean, it slashed their routing costs because couriers never had to double back. And surprisingly, it created a highly engaging, interactive experience for the recipient.
Oh, because they get to arrange it themselves.
Exactly. They get the joy of unboxing and arranging the stems, following styling tips provided by the app.
They fundamentally changed the shape of the product to make the software's job easier.
They prove that you can't just throw $12 million of code at a problem and expect magic. The software has to deeply respect the physical constraints of the real world. And that innovation propelled them to become one of the leading online florists in Europe.
So what does this all mean? We've traced the evolution from a corner shop with limited hours to a $12.7 billion digital ecosystem operating 24/7.
It's a massive leap.
It really is. We've broken down the air traffic control system of the 4-app architecture, explored the terrifying reality of database crashes on Valentine's Day, and seen how companies are redesigning the literal cardboard box to solve the last mile of delivery.
If we step back and look at the whole mechanism, I think it cultivates a deep appreciation for the invisible infrastructure of modern convenience.
It really makes you think differently about your phone.
Yeah, next time you use one of these apps, you have to appreciate the sheer volume of unseen problem solving happening in the background. Whether you are an entrepreneur trying to scale a physical business or just a friend sending a birthday gift, you are participating in a masterpiece of data synchronization.
A masterpiece of data, yeah.
When that vibrant, fresh arrangement arrives precisely on time, it feels like a simple analog gesture. But you now know it is the triumph of rigorous supply chain engineering.
It definitely strips away a little bit of the rustic romance, but I think it replaces it with just sheer awe for the logistics.
It does. But this intersection of tech and tradition also raises an important question about where we are heading. And it's something I've been turning over in my mind since we started looking at this research.
Oh, let's hear it.
As these systems evolve, they are getting exceptionally good at anticipating our needs. We are moving toward a future where the app doesn't just deliver the flowers, it actually manages the relationship.
Like an automated assistant.
Right. It pushes a notification to your watch a week before an anniversary. It uses past purchase data to auto-select a bouquet your partner will love. It processes the payment with biometric Face ID, and it routes the delivery flawlessly.
It makes being thoughtful completely frictionless.
But that is the friction point. If the algorithm remembers the date, selects the gift, and handles the logistics without you ever speaking to a human or making a critical choice, do we risk outsourcing the actual thoughtfulness?
Wow, there's a sharp pivot.
I mean, if an app does 90% of the emotional labor, whose gift is it, really? Are we utilizing technology to beautifully express our deep affections, or are we quietly paying a platform to simulate those affections on our behalf?
That is a genuinely profound thought to carry with us. Next time you tap that buy button, it is definitely worth asking yourself if you were sending a heartfelt gesture or just outsourcing an obligation to an algorithm. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden world of flower delivery apps. We will catch you on the next one.